Well, Kristin Chenoweth, you've got a couple of projects on the Emmy Awards ballot this year. I wanted to start out with Hairspray Live. What was your first reaction when Neil and Craig approached you about joining that?
Well, people always think, oh, you don't get nervous when you do that, right? Well, of course I did, because on Broadway we get 8 times a week to get it right, and on film or TV we can cut till we get it right. This is a one-shot deal, and I just was like, dear Lord, please don't let me drop my baton. Don't let me fall outside of being lifted a lot. Don't let me just fall. Just let me play the part and be true to the piece without a catastrophe. So I was really, really nervous. And also playing the role of Velma was a little interesting, because it's not necessarily a likable character. You kind of hate her. And I wanted to look at the role and figure out the best way I could make her love to hate. Like, people love to hate her. And I decided to approach it more from, the show Dance Moms. There's a reason it's a big hit. It's because there are a lot of moms out there that want their kids to be stars. And I think Velma wants Amber, her daughter, to be a star at any cost. And of course, if Amber can't fill the slot, then she'll do it herself. And I just thought that was fun to play. And the music is so good. Get to kind of put my stamp on Miss Baltimore Crabs was pretty fun.
Do you remember originally the first time you ever saw it?
Yes, I saw it on Broadway the first year it was open, and I saw Linda Hart do that part. And I remember thinking, at that time when I saw it, I was like, oh, Amber, I like the role of Amber. Of course, now I'm like, I like the role of Velma. But I just remember Linda making me laugh. And that Miss Baltimore Crabs was just so, like, that someone of her age would think she could still possibly win a pageant. And then when I saw Michelle Pfeiffer do it in the movie, she had a completely different take, and I loved it too. So I wanted to honor their performances and do my version of it too. And the composer and author really kind of worked with me to make the song a little bit. They rewrote it a little bit and made some vocal flourishes that were fun to sing. And again, you go, really? You want to sing a high E flat on national TV? Are you sure about that, Kristin? While you're being lifted onto a platform twirling? All right, go with God. So I really did pray before it started.
Well, you seeing the original production, you got to see Harvey Fierstein back then, and now you get to work with him. What was he like, not only as a co-star, but also the author?
Well, he's protective of his material, as he should be. He told me, way back when, he was one of those mentors in my life that kind of plucked me out of something and said, you deserve a real chance. And I remember he'd asked me to sing with him at Carnegie Hall a long time ago, like maybe 15, 17 years ago, with the Gay Men's Chorus. And I said, oh, I'm nobody. You don't want, he said, no, we're going to sing together. And that was because he went, come with me, and that was a lesson I've taken with me throughout my career, is when you see somebody that moves you or is special, take them with you, mentor them. And so he's been doing that for me all these years. But then to get to work with him, I was nervous about it. I wanted to make him proud. And he kept saying to me, I'm so proud of you, and just keep doing what you do. Just you do you, he kept saying. Because I was like, are you happy with this? Do you want this? And he was like, you do you. You're putting your own stamp on this thing. You do it. This is your role. And, he gave me the freedom. And once he gave me permission and freedom, then I felt like I was able to soar, and that's a gift, and one artist gives another that's greatly appreciated.
Well, I love that idea of paying it forward, that he did that for you so early in your career. Do you do that for other people maybe early on in the industry?
Absolutely. When they were looking at who to play my daughter, I said, I know I'm not the casting director, but I really think you should look at Dove Cameron very hard. I think she's perfect. So I'm not trying to take credit. She got there on her own, and she would have gotten it anyway because she is perfect for it. But, I'm always going to mention who I think is right for something. And I think way back when Kelly O'Hara moved to New York, I remember telling my agents, you got to hear this girl sing. So I've always tried to do that. And especially, like I said, when someone touches you. I have my own camp in Broken Arrow, my own theater actually that bears my name, and with that comes, I think, a lot of responsibility. And this, in a couple weeks, we'll be having our third summer arts camp with kids learning how to sing, act, dance, and it's taught by some of my professional friends and some famous friends coming in to teach and impart what they've learned. And so, I wanted that when I was growing up, and now getting to be a part of that whole circle, paying it forward is, I think, what it's really truly about. Truly, that's really the truth.
Well, now you're out promoting American Gods for Stars. Tell people what that actually is now that it's about to debut, and who you play.
It debuts on Stars, and it's originally a book by Neil Gaiman. And if anybody is a fan or readership of him, then you know what a special mind he has. And I read the book, and I thought, how will this ever translate on TV? This was before Brian had told me what part he was kind of thinking about for me, and he told me to read it. So I read it, which took me forever because I'm kind of a slow processor, and it's a complicated world. And what they've done so beautifully is melded these very, very different worlds together, about 4 worlds together that are all extremely singular and transitioned, and somehow it all makes sense. And it's not only looks beautiful, but it's very character driven and dialogue heavy, text heavy, which I am a lover of language. So it just felt right for me to do it. I play Easter, the goddess of Easter, Ostaria, which is been around a little bit longer than Jesus, and he has now chosen to celebrate his resurrection on her special day, and she's a little mad about it. So she has to deal with her feelings, boiling kind of down under, and also sort of finding a place in her life, having been happy, and now she's been invited back into this world of power by Wednesday, which is played by Ian McShane. So it's a great show that begs a lot of questions. For me, it's mainly about old versus new, people finding old talent, business people trying to find relevancy in today's world, in a time when we are led with social media and everything is about a selfie and Twitter and Instagram. And look, I'm able to talk to you now this way because of this great strides that we've come. But the question is, how far will we go? How far are we willing to go? What is too much? It's almost scary but exciting, and that's kind of what our show's about. And it's in a time in 2017 when we are sort of looking for our footing as a country and as a great nation that we are, finding that and seeing how people are relevant and who isn't relevant anymore and how they will stay relevant. That's what this is really about, and that's interesting to me. So I'm glad I get to be a part of that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, when you said excellent production design and dialogue and things like that, it reminded me of when you were on Pushing Daisies.
Yeah.
I bet some of those thoughts went through your mind.
Of course it did. When I read the script for Pushing Daisies, I think I was in like 1 or 2 scenes, my character, and I was like, I don't even care. It's never been about quantity for me. It's always been about quality. And when I saw that, I said, this voice is singular. This is Brian Fuller we're talking about, who'd done Dead Like Me. And of course, then he went on to do Hannibal and now American Gods, each very different worlds, but he definitely puts his stamp and his style on each. And I missed Pushing Daisies. It was something like we hadn't seen before. It centers around 2 people who are in love with each other who can't touch, which I always thought was fascinating and couldn't believe it. And my character kind of represented the audience. Like, I don't get it. Like, why doesn't he choose me? He can touch me. Why don't they ever touch? Why don't they kiss? Like, what is it? And I don't know. It begged a lot of questions too. It had us look at our own mortality. It had us look at how we viewed the afterlife. And I'm a very spiritual person. Most people know that about me. So I loved it. And I loved the music. When I say the music, I love the music of his writing. He has a very specific voice, and you'll find it again in American Gods. Sure.
I still remember your Emmy Awards speech. It was one of the best ones I can recall. And you were doing call outs to shows you said you wanted to be part of. When you saw some of those people like later in the evening, what did they say to you?
Oh man, can I just tell you that night I was so shocked. Like if my head could have fallen off my body, it probably would have. But after that speech, I got hit with a migraine. And those can be so debilitating. I think it was just, I don't know if it was the lights, the excitement, I don't know, but I didn't even get to party or celebrate it. So I just went home and was in darkness, right? I was celebrating in my heart. But I did remember saying that I wanted to be on 24 and I wanted to be on Mad Men. And I never got a call from either place. I got calls from other people, but not them. And I'm not bitter about it. I'm just like, dang, I would have been great on Mad Men, man.
Well, another thing, one of my favorite things you've done recently, 2 years ago, you got to co-host the Tony Awards. What was your favorite moment from that night?
Basically any time with Alan Cumming was fun. We did get to perform a number from On the 20th Century, this operetta that I was doing at the time. And that, anytime I can be in a show audiences at home that maybe would normally, like I grew up in Oklahoma and not getting to go to Broadway and not getting ever to see something like the Tony Award, getting to perform from your show is like gold, right? It's still for me gold. I'm going to show people what we're doing on Broadway. But, we did have a moment. There was one special moment that stands out, and it was an idea that we kind of had, Alan and I, to do a spoof of The King and I. And he, of course, was dressed like Anna with a big, huge dress, and I was the king who came out from underneath his skirt. And, that in and of itself made me laugh. So we just decided to have fun, not be anything other than who we were. And I appreciate you saying that because we did have fun. The only bad thing about the Tonys is they always air it on the night that's the NBA championship. And being a basketball lover myself, I'm always like, oh, what are people going to DVR? The Tonys or the basketball game? I guess it just depends on the audience, right?
And going back to your Tony Award win, that was really early in your career. Any particular standout moment from that night?
Yeah, people make predictions, right? And that year it was sort of the prediction was in my favor. And I remember my mom and dad flew in from Oklahoma to see the Tonys that year. And I said, I don't know if it'll happen. And my dad said, you know what? Go into it as if it's not. And then if it happens, you're so excited and it's just a dream. But already for you to be this young and to be invited to this party, you've won. And that's the thing that I remember him telling me and kind of taking with me. And then again, we got to perform from the show. And that to me is Broadway. People love to see who wins, but really they want to see the shows. So, and that was back in the time, in 1999, they were still doing plays. That's when they would do a scene from a play. And I really wish and hope that someday the Tonys goes back to that. Because not everybody wants to see all the musical numbers. Maybe they want to see Denzel Washington do a scene. Maybe they want to see Sally Field do Glass Menagerie. That's how I was introduced to Madeline Kahn. I remember when she did Sisters Rosenzweig, and that's how I saw it on the Tonys.
Well, it's all. I know you're going to win a Grammy one day. You do great recordings all the time, and so that just puts you an Oscar away from EGOT. What are you going to do in a film that's going to get you that EGOT?
I don't know. I've thought a lot about what kind of parts I would like to play in a movie and kind of the direction that I'm headed, and musically too, because the voice is just deepening a little bit, changing a little bit, and that makes my material a little bit different. And I'm embracing it. I love it. I think, I'm getting ready I'm developing a show for Broadway about Tammy Faye Baker. And I kind of I could see how maybe that could be maybe even made into a biopic as well. I don't know. But there's something with me with strong religious women I'm not really sure what that is. And I just know that my message has really become, especially in this industry, being a person of faith and being a person in show business, how that works and how I view certain things I was told growing up, and now how do I feel? And I don't know. I think Tammy Faye was an interesting character of her time, and maybe a little bit ahead of her time in a lot of ways. So maybe that, I don't know. I think, if I had a crystal ball, now would be the question, the answer that I would use it on.
Well, as we finish up, our one of our editors, Matt Noble, I'm a huge West Wing fan, but he's the biggest fan on the earth. So I got to ask you one West Wing question. I know you worked a lot with John Spencer, and he was just one of my favorites. What's just like a lasting memory of working with him?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. Because we were so tight, and they began to write for us together, and also that I was starting to maybe flirt with him a little bit, and we just cracked up about that because I was like his little sister. I was just like his, he was a mentor. But we went with it because they saw the chemistry. And I remember, it's a tough memory, but it's a good memory, and it's one to share for sure. He was addicted to Jolly Ranchers candy, and he always had them in his pocket, his coat pocket. And he had passed away, and it was my first week back on the set after, and I had to do a scene where my character finds him, and I just didn't want to do it. To be honest with you, I just thought I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm too sad. And somebody handed me a warming coat because it was cold on set, and it was huge. And I thought, oh, of course they've given me somebody else's coat because I'm 4'11", so everything's massive on me. So I put it on, and I put my hands in my pocket, and it was a handful of Jolly Ranchers. And I thought, that's John's way of saying, you're the right person to do this. So do it. Put a piece of candy in my mouth, and that was it.
Wow. So you knew right away that it was meant to be.
He was giving me a sign, for sure.
Well, listen, thank you so much for today. You're one of my favorites. I've always wanted to talk to you, and we'll see those Emmy ballots in a few weeks. I hope voters will remember you on these two projects that you've got.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. Tell Beverly